Yo, welcome to the Teens Can Change the World podcast. I'm Lyric Gans from TCA and Northeast High School, and I'm in the early childhood pathway. Today, I'm going to be discussing an issue that affects millions of kids around the country. Today, I am joined by a very special guest whom I've known since 6th grade. JC is a senior at Northeast High School, and JC, can you tell them what career path you're in?
I'm in the K-12 education pathway, and I'll be majoring in elementary education.
Yep, you heard it. JC is interested in the K-12 education pathway, which is why I thought you would be perfect for today's podcast subject.
Thank you, I'm honored.
Now, I have a question for my viewers. What would you do if your biggest worry wasn't homework or sports, but instead whether or not there will be dinner on the table tonight? JC, I have a quiz question for you, and also our viewers can answer too. How many Americans do you think suffer from food insecurity in their homes? A, 29 million, B, 15 million, C, 47 million, or D, 33 million?
I'm gonna go with A, 20.
You're wrong. According to NoKidHungry.org, over 47 million Americans live in households that experience food insecurity. 14 million of them being children.
That is crazy.
Yeah, it's devastating. Now that you've been introduced to our topic of today's episode, let's break down what child hunger is. Child hunger is when children don't have consistent access to enough food, making it harder for them to grow, learn, and stay healthy. Another statistic that I have from NoKidHungry.org states that in the year 2023, 18% of households with children could not afford to buy food for their families.
Wow.
JC, how does that statistic make you feel as a teen who's a part of this generation?
It makes me feel empathetic towards my peers because it's like you couldn't even tell if one kid had dinner the night before or another kid didn't, or you could never tell the difference.
Yeah, I mean, if someone has their head down during class, you might just think they're lazy, but when in fact they probably haven't eaten for a while.
Yeah, so their energy levels are just down.
I'm really smart.
You really are.
All right. So, JC, we know that child hunger is a real issue. But how does it actually affect kids? A lack of food for kids doesn't just mean an empty stomach.
You're right.
It affects how kids grow, learn, and feel about themselves. When kids don't have enough to eat, it's harder for them to concentrate in class or even feel confident in social situations. I know as a teenager, you and I both struggle with juggling school, activities, and social life. But could you imagine adding the uncertainty of not knowing where your next meal is going to come from?
No, I couldn't even imagine going to school on an empty stomach and just sitting there in class because I didn't have dinner the night before.
Yeah.
That would just be the hardest thing because how are you supposed to focus on school?
Exactly. You'd be focused on your stomach growling. Why do you think it's important for people our age to care about this issue?
I think that it's important because, we could make a change. And whether that's through, advocating for, raising awareness or volunteering or even, through our social media platforms.
You're right. Now that we've hit on why child hunger matters, I'd like to dive into you and I's personal perspective on this issue. I know last year for FBLA, if some of you guys don't know what FBLA is, it's short for Future Business Leaders of America. JC, could you give a brief summary of what FBLA is and what you did in the club?
Yes. So FBLA is, as Lyric said, a club that we have at our home high school, Northeast, and it's at other schools too. And basically, with my experience through my chapter, we went to a local park and picked up trash for our Go Green project, basically to help the earth and our environment. And also part of that project, we created Go Green posters and we put them around our school. And it had some things on there like take shorter showers or turn the lights on, kind of trying to conserve energy and water because those are things that come from our natural resources. And another thing that we did was cook a food blitz, which I think for this topic is really important because basically we went to Russ's Market and handed out flyers to shoppers coming in, and it basically gave them a list of food that they could buy while shopping that they could then drop off to us on their way out.
Thank you, JC, for that amazing summary, by the way. One of my personal favorite activities that we did during FBLA was volunteering at the Matt Talbot Soup Kitchen. Thank you for that amazing summary, by the way. Personally, one of my favorite activities that we did for FBLA was volunteering at the Matt Talbot Soup Kitchen. I was shocked to see how many families were there with children. And I'd also like to connect this to the broader issue of child hunger. I think it really shows the reality of families directly affected by food insecurity. Seeing children and their families utilize and rely on this resource and many others, it really highlighted the immediate need for support and the harsh reality that many kids don't know where their next meal is coming from, which is really sad. What did you think about volunteering at Matt's House?
Well, first I'd like to give a brief explanation of kind of like what we did. Mine and Lyric's FBLA chapter had like a Sunday bar that was at the end. So like they would go and get their food and then they'd come to us. And we were basically like, we were at a specific thing. So like we had ice cream, different toppings, syrups.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it was just really nice for them to be able to like come through and get things and like have that interaction with them. Because some of them would just like tell us their like life story. And I thought that was amazing. And I also thought it was really fun to see all the happy faces on kids when they noticed that they were getting ice cream. Because like to them, just getting like a meal is incredible. So them getting ice cream with that too was just incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even the adults were happy, which was nice to see. So, you guys might start to be wondering, what can we do to help reduce child hunger? Well, even small actions like donating canned goods or organizing a food drive at school can make a really big impact. We do not have to wait for adults to fix this. Even as teens, guys, we can start organizing events like food drives or even using our social media platforms to raise awareness about child hunger in the community. Now that I think about it, do you remember having the backpack program at your school?
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I do.
Well, I personally remember having the backpack program at my elementary school. I remember kids would come down to the cafeteria every once in a while after school and pick up these backpacks with food in them. I decided to do more research on the backpack program, and I learned that through the feedingamerica.org website, they send about 2,100 kids home with food-filled backpacks every Friday.
Why every Friday?
You know, I was actually thinking the same thing, but then I thought about it. When kids go home for the weekend, they don't have the school meals that are usually given to them. But, you know, through the backpack program, they're able to get food that they can take home to their families and feed them for the weekend over the small break.
I really like that idea.
I know, right? Also, to our watchers, I found out that you guys can donate to the backpack program at lincolnfoodbank.org/donate. Can you think of any other ideas to fight hunger, JC?
I think, like, how about we all start a social media challenge, like, raise awareness?
Yeah.
Like, donate $5 and tag 5 friends.
Ooh,
and when doing so, share with the followers about local food programs.
Yeah, and you can even add motivation to get people to donate by creating a giveaway.
That's an amazing idea.
Thank you. I'm very smart. I have other ideas, too. I was thinking maybe we could start a food drive at school, where people can bring in canned goods and boxed foods, and you can even turn it into a competition against grade levels.
That's a really good idea, because then that creates, like, the motivation to
Exactly.
win.
And also, I remember in middle school, we had soup nights, maybe once a month, where kids could bring their families to the school cafeteria and have a nice meal with them.
I love that idea. I think we should do that in all schools.
Ooh, that would be nice. I would love to volunteer at that, too.
Me too.
Alrighty. I know this has been a long podcast, but let's recap on everything we've gone over. We've gone over what child hunger is, why it matters, our personal connection, and what we can do as teens to help. What is one thing you want our listeners to take away from this podcast, JC?
I think the biggest thing I want everyone to take away is that no matter your age and, like, ability, that you can always do something to help those in need.
Yes, yeah. Kids really shouldn't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from.
I agree.
Again, a reminder, guys, solving child hunger is not just about the food. It's about making sure that every kid has a fair chance to grow, learn, and live to their full potential. I encourage everyone who is listening to do something to make that happen. Thank you for listening to my podcast. Once again, I was Lyric.
And I'm JC.
Woo!